anaerobic respiration is the process of cellular respiration without oxygen, because an means no. Of course, aerobic means oxygen, so anaerobic means no oxygen. And of course, respiration is the process of converting glucose into the universal currency of energy called ATP. The role of oxygen in aerobic respiration is to be the final electron acceptor at the end of the electron transport chain. With anaerobic respiration, there's no oxygen, so there needs to be an alternate final electron acceptor. Now, why is there a final electron acceptor if there's no electron transport chain? Well, and that is because in the process of glycolysis, high energy electrons are produced. So glycolysis, just like in aerobic respiration, glycolysis is also the first part of anaerobic respiration. And of course, glycolysis is the process of splitting glucose, and we split it into a molecule called pyruvate. Now, this occurs in the cytoplasm, and it's actually a very quick process. So anaerobic respiration, there's two benefits. One, it doesn't require oxygen, and two, it can be very quick. It's a much faster process because it doesn't need all that complex Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. So it's very helpful when an organism needs energy very quickly, like, for example, a sprinter. All right, so now the process of glycolysis, though, only produces a much smaller amount of ATP. In fact, the process of glycolysis only produces 2 ATP. So we've got 2 ADP going into glycolysis, and we produce 2 ATP. Now, I mentioned that in anaerobic respiration we still need a final electron acceptor, and the reason for that is because high energy electrons are produced during glycolysis. So we have NAD plus and NADH is formed in the process of cellular respiration, and we have 2 of those. 2 NADHs are produced. So we've got high energy electrons that need to be received and need to be accepted by a different molecule, not oxygen, because there's no oxygen present. There's 2 different pathways depending on the type of organism. With animals, it's a process called lactic acid fermentation. And basically the formula is this. So glucose is converted into lactate, which is further converted into lactic acid. And a couple of ATP are produced as well, obviously, that we've talked about up there. So that's the process of anaerobic respiration or lactic acid fermentation that occurs in animals. Now with plants and yeast. Now, of course, plants and yeast can also, when the conditions allow, undergo aerobic respiration, but when there's not enough oxygen available, then they undergo anaerobic respiration. An example of that might be waterlogged roots of a plant. And yeast fermentation is actually really helpful for baking, because that's what makes bread proof. It makes the bubbles that occur and makes bread rise. So this is a process called alcohol or alcoholic fermentation. And again, we start with glucose. And the final electron acceptor is an alcohol called ethanol. And also we produce carbon dioxide. Now that carbon dioxide is what makes the bubbles in bread.